Okay, let's get started. I have us at 11:30 Eastern Time. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name is Thomas Meredith. I'm going to help moderate today's webcast on behalf of the Resource Management Institute. I'd like to welcome you to our second Power Up webinar of the year. This is the keys to better employee engagement. Today's webinar is scheduled for 30 minutes, so don't have you for too long today, so I'm just going to cover a few items here at the beginning and then get right to the content. Excuse me, we do have a PDF copy of the deck available. If you want to download your handouts window there, if you go to webinar panel, you can download a PDF copy. And yes, we are recording the webcast. Once it's archived and processed on our end, we'll be sending out an email. It will have a link to the recording, and we'll get that out later this afternoon. And finally, we are having a Q&A session at the end of the webcast. As I mentioned, today's webinar is 30 minutes, but we will try to cover as many questions as we can all the way up until 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And if we don't get to some, we'll handle those offline after the event. Okay, that covers what I wanted to cover, so let's get started here. And I'd like to welcome the Managing Director of the Resource Management Institute, who will be presenting today's content, Randy Mislovic. Randy, welcome. I'll hand it off to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate it. A quick sound check. I sound all right there?
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. This is Randy Mislovic, Managing Director of the RMI, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you today about employee engagement, particularly employee engagement at scale. You'll hear me refer to that quite a bit today, but it's hopefully a very timely topic as it relates to the nature of our current labor market and the things that are going on around us. And so we'll get to that. I want to offer thanks to all of you for joining us and giving us a half hour of your day. I also want to thank our sponsors, Cantata, the new name for Maven Lake and Kimball, Projector, and Savion. We really appreciate their support of the Institute and their, by the way, support and respect for resource management and how important it is to the roles that all of you have in what you do. So we're delighted to have them as sponsors for today's broadcast. Okay, let me see if I can get my slides started advancing here. Just one page on the RMI. If you're new to us, thank you for joining us. We run these power-ups every quarter on some topic related to resource or workforce management. We are, in a nutshell, dedicated to the advancement of resource and workforce management thought leadership, and we do that by providing a best practice definition and development. Market research, we've got 21 research reports out there available downloadable from the website. They're free to anybody who joins the RMI, and then joining the RMI is free. We've got a big white paper library, and that library is broken up by the various project-based domains that we serve through the Institute. We've got a broad range of training and education, from basic education to a full certification program and advanced training for those people looking to go beyond their certification training. And we run events like this to include our annual symposium, which we just ran in Dallas in April of this year. So anyway, that's a little bit about us. You can find us at resourcemanagementinstitute.com, and hope if you're not a member, you'll join us. So super timely topic here, and let me just start definitionally with what is employee engagement, just so we're all on the same page there as I dive into this. So I went out to the internet and got me some definitional stuff here. The top half of this, employee engagement, is a fundamental concept and describes the nature of the relationship between an organization and its employees, and an engaged employee is fully absorbed and enthusiastic in their work. An engaged employee has a positive attitude toward the organization, its values, and probably a key point here, expected to outperform those with low employee engagement. In my layman terms, quite frankly, is if I love my job, I'm working hard at it and producing a good productivity for the organization. And if I hate my job, I'm probably not. And that's my definition in a nutshell. And we're in pretty interesting times, to say the least. Coming out of the pandemic, which was a pretty big disruptor, and today, I describe some of these things on this page as big disruptors as well. And some really interesting data that relative to employee engagement, 88% of highly engaged employees agree that they will be at their organization in a year, compared to 49% of disengaged employees. Wow, what a huge contrast. And on this side, we've got more than 1 in 3 Americans in the labor force are millennials, and the generational change in our labor force now is undisputable. And to the different generations bring along with them different desires relative to their careers and compensation and kind of work that they want to do and those sorts of things. And in the middle of all that, we have the big resignation going on. We have the impact of the gig economy, with nearly half of our today's millennial workers wanting to work as independents in the workforce, the nature of the flex workforce, labor shortages, and those sorts of things. So to say the least, we have a lot of churn, and we, as I know, many of your organizations are working with how do you deal with higher attrition rates than we've traditionally been used to. And employee engagement is not all of the answer, but it's certainly part of the answer. Back about a year and a half or so ago, I wrote a white paper series, and it's these 3 white papers that are on here that based on some research we at the Institute did on employee engagement. And some key findings there were this is the stuff I put here in green, is that what people, at least what the millennials were telling us, is we want work that's aligned with my career aspirations and goals. And an important role for the RMO, and a need for new ways of collaborating with HR, by way with delivery, especially where scalable capabilities are needed. And I'll talk about why the focus on scale. But coming out of these 3 white papers, and again, you can download these for free from the website as well. And a couple of things that I focused on there was this whole area of career development and work-life balance, and not trying to prevent burnout of particularly our best people, but any of our people is important thing to manage. And there were 2 really important findings. And again, one was this capturing employee career wants, needs, relevant personal wants and needs, travel desires, etc., into a database. We call it skills database, or skills inventory, so that you have a way to use the process and technology to drive what you when you're assigning people to work, that we aren't just assigning people to work based on the economic needs of the company. We're also taking into consideration the needs and wants and desires of the people who have to go do that work. I can say I've lived in this industry for more than 40 years, and know that the nature of the industry has always been, I got projects, I go find the next person I can put on it, and while I know there's organizations who have I'll say graduated beyond that, you're in the minority. This is still the majority of companies are still fighting this problem with triages. I got a project to do, I go find somebody who looks like they can check the box, and I check the box, and I move on. Hopefully you're moving past that and get more scientific, but this piece of it's really important, and you can't do this just with first line managers owning the employee engagement issue. It's just there's just too much, and I'm going to talk about that here in the next page. And then redefining your project allocation priorities and algorithms to incorporate employee engagement objectives more in balance with other criteria. And so, a lot of you are using your modern PSA PPM tools to help you with that process of assigning people to work. And so one thing to look at is, are you capturing information that's relevant to be able to make better choices relative to career desires of your employees? But are your tools, is your PSA PPM tool prepared to be able to allow you to build an algorithm and do some selection that hits the marks both economically and as it relates to the wants and desires of the employee? So, traditional, why should the RMO be involved? And that's a resource management office. And it's really to enable scale and not put the entire problem in the lap of the first line manager. The traditional HR approaches do not typically address this problem at scale. And again, because so many times that they're driven down to the first line manager, who then led to enact this, where you have something that's really big and programmatic, and it happens for everybody in the organization. And the RMO is a place where we can drive more personalization of what we're going to do relative to how we assign people to work. And there's a few points I made here about, first-line managers have client and other internal business needs. They get increasing spans of control. They, other employee-like needs like performance management to do. And by the way, the perks that I know there was a time we all went through where everybody was putting a foosball table in their operation and the popcorn machine, those sorts of things. Is at least I'd just say that it's not just our research. We've seen research from numerous other organizations indicate that perks aren't at the top of the list for millennials. And you go right back to what I found in the white paper is the top of their list are their career wants and desires, and getting the kind of work that they want to do are really important to today's generations, and important that we take and are paying attention to that in our project-based work. And a lot of RMOs are equipped to deal with this. The question is, have you put the processes in place to do this? So, if you've been to our RMCP school to get certified in resource management, we teach you the 6 elements of resource management that we call just-in-time resourcing. And I want to talk about the implications for these 6 things as it relates to employee engagement. And by this slide would be a great reference tool for folks that want to pick this up and run with it. But as I often say, these 6 things are, whether you use our process or somebody else's, you're going to have to do these 6 things at some level, or you won't be able to do employee engagement, and you won't be able to do resource management. So this is where the skills inventory, where you capture employee wants, development needs, and career aspirations. The staffing element is where you hopefully find a better balance of staffing priorities between the economic needs of the business and employee wants and development needs that hopefully you've captured in that skills inventory. Forecasting has got to be long-term, so that we, today, if our research says it's taken all of you 2 to 4 months to go from when you need somebody to get them onboarded and productive and able to actually do work. So if you can't forecast that at least that far, 2 to 4 months or longer, you're already behind the 8 balls, so to speak, relative to being able to be proactive in your sourcing and development needs, which is really building that gap analysis between who I have and when they're going to be available, what they want to do, with the forecast for what work am I going to have to do at what granular level, so that I can turn that into a sourcing and development plan. And again, hopefully make sure that sourcing and development plan is aligned with not only the economic needs of the business, but the wants, needs, and desires of the employees. You got to have good technology, PSA, PPM, RPM tool. By the way, spreadsheets are going to go the way of dogs that chase cars. You just don't, you want to wean yourself from these. Today's tools, we have a lot of exposure to the automation tools that are available today. And if you're using spreadsheets, you either probably have the wrong tool or you haven't configured it right or whatever. But most of these tools today can do most of what you want to do within themselves natively. And then lastly is governance. Measuring employee engagement process, typically done in collaboration with human resources. And by the way, again, I'll accentuate HR in our view here doesn't go away. They do play a really important role. How they team up with the RMO, we think, is different than things have been in the past. And that's where, again, we think we can accomplish engagement at scale. So we put together, and this slide kind of goes hand in hand with the prior page, is the kind of the 3-step plan as to how you go about doing this. And so, establishing goals for employee engagement and defining the process you'll want to implement in a plan. And so some of the things are, you do this collaboratively with the other organizations like HR and delivery and finance, and you define, what good's going to look like as it relates to your employee engagement objectives. Define how you want to measure these things. Agree on an approach that you're going to use to achieve this at scale, and then assign cross-functional responsibilities and owners. And it's really important this be put together as a program that you're going to do, because it does require an all-hands-on-deck approach, and because it's targeted directly at our human capital that we need to run projects. I can't think anything is more important to us than try to get this right. Second is amending your processes to support your target state. get agreement to that. Make sure you're training people to be able to do this. And by the way, the point here that maybe I should have highlighted is focused soft skills is one of the areas we've found that organizations are weaker on, is where I've got a good trained resource manager, but that resource manager has got to be interacting with the delivery teams, with people at a personal level at times. And the more that they can have good soft skills, the more that they can help communicate, the organization's objectives relative to employee development, employee engagement, and those sorts of things as they're working to assign people to work. So that's a really important part of their development. By the way, we have a good training program that's designed to not only teach people resource management, but also teach them the softer side of doing their job as well. Test the process, communicate a broader launch plan, and then step 3 is start to capture employee data and execute, and have benchmark yourself way back over here in step 1 and see how you're doing. Is your attrition rates going down? If you have some way to measure employee engagement, is that getting better? How do people feel about the program you put in place? And every organization will have its own culture and way of how it wants to do that. But in any regard, those are really the 3 things that I would say are really most important as you are kind of stepping your way through this. By the way, I'm going to take questions at the end, and I hope you'll save some of your questions and put them in a Q&A box when I get to that point, because I'd love to hear what's on your mind as it relates to a lot of these things, and anything that I've left out that has not been helpful to you. I would encourage you to go back and look at those white papers. For those of you who attended the RMGSs, we recorded the sessions. There were some really good both panels and lecture sessions on employee engagement, and encourage you to go back and look at some of those. Some terrific content in some of those. So just a big announcement for us today, and wanted to make everybody aware is that on October 4th and 6th, we're going to have 2 roughly 3-hour-long sessions that we combine into a virtual event we has come to known as RMI Connect. This is our 3rd time doing it. And RMI Connect by the way, has a focus on Connect. We use Zoom technology. We use breakout rooms, and just based on the feedback we got from our surveys the last time we were in this, we got great feedback. We're going to have expert speakers on resource management. We're going to have speakers talking about resource management maturity, which is the theme of the event, enabling right person, right place, right time. But we have a maturity model that's out there in the RMI. Again, you can download that maturity model for free, and then you can come into this event, and we're going to be focused on organizations that take themselves from we're a level 1 to what we would call a level 5 in the maturity curve. So anyway, check this out. It is a fee event. It's $249 a person, and there's a early bird pricing of $199 available to early August. And we do have team discounts available, so I hope you'll join us for that. If you're not familiar with RMCP, the Resource Management Certified Professional Program, it's the first of its kind program for resource managers that gets you opportunity to learn best practices in this area, to gain access to resource centers specific for your role, and to collaborate with your peers. There's a lot of great relationships we've seen made through their association of other people in going through these courses. We've got well more than 500 companies that have put people through this program. The program has grown really, really rapidly for us. In the course, we teach you those 6 things that I mentioned earlier. I keep saying this all along, whether you use R6 or somebody else, you're going to have to do at least these 6 things and have some way of addressing these. And we teach this course, by the way, either in a classroom in Cincinnati, where we're headquartered. We got one of those coming up. I think it's in the August timeframe. I think it's on my next page here. Or virtually with a live instructor. It's 2 hours every week for 6 weeks with a little bit of homework. Or you can take the program entirely on demand, 7 by 24. There is a certification exam that you can take as soon as the course is over, and there's a recertification process, and you can see the pricing there at the bottom of the page. So, by the way, we also provide a digital badge for this as well. So take the time to do that. I won't go through all these. I put these up here. You'll have access to this, but you can get all this data on our program schedule from our website. Again, here's our in-person classes online, and then RMCP on demand is available down here, and you can see the various prices. There are early bird prices for these as well. Roughly, if you get into them more than a month in advance or out, you can save another $100 on these. And then there's our strategic courses, which are on demand. And this is, for those of you running RMOs or as RMs looking for how do I grow and develop, we have an intro program to resource management. There's a certification program, and then we have next level development, and we have badges for these, as well as I mentioned earlier. We've got a great new course on soft skills so that we teach a well-trained resource manager how to improve their ability to interact with their various constituency, to manage conflict, to work through those difficult times and those sorts of things. So, and again, we've got a great set of advanced courses for people that have been through the certification program. With that, before I take questions, I'll just take a moment and thank again Cantata, the combination of Maven, Lincoln, Kimball, Projector, and Savion. We really appreciate them being here to help us out. And with that, I'm going to go, Thomas, to the Q&A here. I'm just looking for my, okay, so I'm looking at the panel here. So, all right, I'll pick these off as quickly as I can in my remaining 6 or 7 minutes here. I'll try to get to as many of these as I possibly can here. One question that came in was, what role do you think HR should play in employee engagement then, and how do they work together with the RMO? So, I made the comment earlier that I think that organizations need to be, HR needs to do the work that it's been doing before, but recognize that the development teams in the RMO, wherever the RMO is are responsible for assigning people to work. Today's generations are so focused on the things that are important to them relative to their career things and the kind of work that they want to do. And the best place we can do that at scale is not through the first line manager. It's not from HR. It's through the RMO with a process built to help with that assignment. Now, it doesn't mean that the first line managers are out of the picture here, and I don't mean to communicate that in any way, shape, or form. It's really important that we take the time to recognize that first line managers can get involved in those places where a process and a computer can't solve the issues, or we have some unique sort of thing. But give them the opportunity to focus on those exceptions as opposed to having to get involved in every deal that we do. Okay, so I'm just looking at some of the questions here. Let's see here. Can you speak to how the RMO can define adjacent skills in the skills database to identify opportunities to develop staff internally to meet future skill needs? Yeah. So I think that the process typically starts out with surveys of employees about what are the development wants and needs that they have. I'll just say it in a generic sense at large, and perhaps employee development sessions are going on between a first line manager and their employee, and hopefully that becomes the baseline of then HR working with the RMO and the delivery team on defining, I'll say, a short list of here's the skills that we want to first work on identifying that are going to end up in a database that people could then, check the box. Yeah, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in that. And that's typically where it starts. I would encourage organizations to start, think big but start small. Don't get too cute or too scientific with, where you start out, because once you get too big and too wieldy, it becomes too big and too wieldy to actually use. Another great question. How do we sell management and need to optimize staffing? Everybody's focused on getting the next project staffed so that we keep the customers happy, and I get that. We run our parent company, we run a consulting company, and we understand how that works. But in the end is that we also understand on the receiving end of employee attrition how that feels, and that doesn't help anybody. And we've gotten inquiries from quite a few organizations that are running between 15 and 25% attrition, well over historical norms. And we all know the kind of project disruption that causes, and that's quantifiable. And so, to the degree that you believe better employee engagement will drive that down, then, quantify, the cost of project disruptions because we're having people leave the organization and figure out how do I start to do a better job of that. And that's where the answer to that really comes out here. Let's see here. I'm going to just look at another question. I think that there's an opportunity for RMs to work with the HR department to develop individual development plans that align with the forecast resource needs of business. Do you have any examples of companies that are using the RMO staff or data in this way? We have examples of companies that are doing it, but that's information that they have to decide if they want to disseminate and share with the organization. So if you're an RMI member, I would encourage you to go out to our RMI forums and ask people the question and see if a member company is willing to share with you what they're doing and how they're going about it. Over time, we'll start to develop case studies and things relative to this. This is a new area of research emphasis for us. It has been for the last couple of years, and we're just getting to where organizations are really running big programs in mass. We'll start to get data back, and we'll do some research on that. But at the moment, my best suggestion on outreach is that you maybe go look for anybody who might be willing to talk to you through the forum. This, by the way, when we get to RMI Connect, is we have virtual breakouts, and we open up the floors so people can talk to each other. They can see the other people that are attending these. I get great feedback about the level of interactivity from those, and so I would encourage you to think about coming to RMI Connect in October as another opportunity to interact with other companies. Let's see here. Do you have any tips about how to handle HR if they're not interested in any shape or form about employee engagement and delivery managers? HR truly believes that E is not part of the RM responsibilities. That's a senior management discussion. It just needs to find its way to the C level. To if you have attrition issues in a delivery organization, I'd be wanting to raise that level to where I had a C-level, conversation and had the right people sitting in the room and just, to make our case. And again, I'd go back to the data: is what happens with as employees attrit. What happens to your projects, and what's the economic impact to your business of that? And those things are not too difficult to quantify. The data on attritions are pretty easy to get. People can argue the causes for those things, but across the industry, we're seeing this. It's not unique to any one company. It's a nature of what's going on in the marketplace today. There's just a ton of churn, and for a lot of the reasons that I've talked about there. I got time for, I think, one more question. Do most modern RM automation tools support employee engagement variables in their tools? I don't know if I could use the word most defined, because I haven't seen every tool, and there's a lot of them out there. I do know that some of the tools have this capability. I'd encourage you to come look at our website, look at the sponsors for this as an example, and see what they're doing. One of the nice things that a value of joining RMI is we're getting input from all of you, and we're feeding this back through to the vendors. By the way, we have an automation tool survey going on right now. You can go in and take the survey. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes max. It's available through the website, and you'll get a free research report early in the third quarter on that. And we take those research reports and turn around and send them right back to the sponsor and say, look, this is what our constituency, our members, are more than 2,000 members now, are telling people that they want in their tools. And this is a really high priority for people. But by the way, some of the tools, I don't know if I came out and said it right, some of the tools absolutely support this capability. I say capturing the data is one thing they've gotten a lot better at. It's more spotty relative to their ability to create these algorithms that would balance both economic needs with employee engagement needs, but clearly our tools that have this capability out, and as AI and BI capabilities get better, we're going to see a lot of improvements in this area that'll help you really do this at scale. So I think, Thomas, that finds us now at the top of the hour. I'm going to let you go ahead and close us out.
Yeah, right at the top of the hour. Thanks, Randy. Appreciate your time today presenting. And thank you to everyone joining us. We love putting these together. We do these 4 times a year. and helps us bring all the members together to talk about a topic. So again, thank you for joining us. I will do a plug for our next Power Up. It won't be till the end of the summer. And speaking of technology, that's what we're going to dive into in our next Power Up. We're going to talk about next generation capabilities and resource management technologies. So not just some of the process stuff we cover in Power Ups, but we also dive into technology aspect as well. So be on the lookout for your inbox. Again, that's late August timeframe for our next Power Up. Randy, again, thanks for your time and your presentation today. Thank you everyone for joining us, and I'll sign off.